indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we have the consent agenda, and I believe there was just one item pulled, but do we have a motion?
Move to approve the consent agenda less the one item pulled.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right, and then the one item pulled was G2, which was the Taverna Agora, and I believe Counselor Silver just had a few questions about that.
Well, first, let me say I'm very supportive of adding more of a downtown experience, particularly on Hillsborough Street. I had a question about the pavers. There are some large trees. There's currently mulch between the curb and the sidewalk. I just want to make sure those trees will remain quite healthy. I'm sure the applicant would not want anything to happen to those trees and replace them. So just wanted to know, are there permeable pavers being used? It wasn't noted on the application, so I just had that one question.
Sure. Daniel King, City of Raleigh Transportation. Yes, permeable pavers will be used. They're also maintaining a 5-foot clear area around the trees, and the platform itself will be elevated, and all of the installation will be done by hand and carefully monitored by our urban forestry group as that occurs.
Okay, with that clarification, I move for approval.
Second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Great. Thank you. Okay, that concludes the consent agenda. We now have public comment, and I believe we have 6 people who have signed up to speak. So first is Octavia Rainey.
Good afternoon. I would like to speak about what happened in North Hills. I have already called Bonnie Gaylord and Mr. King to wish them, to offer them my condolence, because as I told them, that is a situation that they could not control. It was uncontrollable. Gun violence is an issue, and it's a big issue. The thing that bothers me, it depends upon what side of town that it happens on, that it gets more and more attention when the issue itself should be focused on gun violence. Gun violence is an issue. I don't care where you live. I don't care what color your skin is. It's a serious issue. Anytime someone is killed, my heart hurts because I know that is serious. I don't think the city of Raleigh is doing enough to address the issue of gun violence itself. Gun violence must be addressed. Now, I don't know what the police department or anyone is doing about gun running, buying guns that aren't yours. I don't know what we're doing about mental illness in this city. How do we address that? But it is a problem, and it bothers me that when it happens on my side of town, it's a great big deal. But if it happens on another side of town, well, it's a safe neighborhood. No neighborhood is safe. Guns are terrible. They do kill people. And I wish you would change your language when you talk about gun violence. So you make it aware to everyone that I don't care where you at, any place, any time, anywhere, gun violence can happen to you. And that's a serious problem. So when it happens in my neighborhood, don't go on this binge. But you should be going on a binge when someone is killed in the city of Raleigh by a gun. And that's what you really should be focusing on, is that gun violence. And it's a shame. My heart goes out to the Kings, but it goes out to the North Hills family. It goes out to the other killing that they found that was done with a gun in a shopping center. But we have to begin to focus on gun violence itself and the causes and mental illness. And this industry, the hospitality industry, they got to do better. Do they offer counseling to any of their clients free of charge? Free of charge. So please, when we look at gun violence, let's really look at gun violence.
Thank you. Next, we have Stan Joseph. Okay, do not see Mr. Joseph. Next, we have Maida Lashani.
Hello, great job saying my name right, first try. I'm Maida Lashani. I'm a North Carolina native, local resident, and I own a dog. The downtown dog parks, the Nash Square Dog Park and the one at Moore Square, I think are really important. People use them every day. They help the dogs have a good quality of life. They help people have good quality of life. Neighbors are happy because dogs are well exercised and not barking and all of those things. So I think they're great. I was so happy to see that we put those up. And I think they're essential to any downtown area that has residents, right? They're gonna have dogs, you want them to be well behaved. The issue is that the condition of the fencing is beginning to rapidly deteriorate. It looks like temporary fencing was installed when they were first put up. It's not holding up well. The bottoms of it are rolling up, and it's going to create a safety issue over time. We're next to a 3-lane road. You guys see this. It's next to the building, and any of these dogs that wants to can get out from there and run into traffic and cause a major car accident. And so we need the parks, but they need to be properly set up so that they're functioning in a safe way, right? And so I'm just trying to understand, why haven't we installed a permanent park? What are the impediments to getting there? What can we do as a community to make that happen quickly? And I don't know if you're allowed to respond to me, but I just don't know how to ask and get an answer of why isn't that happening and what can we do to get there? Because I think it'll benefit everybody and probably not cost that much, so let me know.
Thank you very much for bringing that up.
Okay, so you guys are just gonna think about it, or I don't know what the next step is. This is my first time engaging in this.
I think we
kind of
can get a follow-up from our manager. We get a memo every Friday with follow-up information. So we can get some follow-up information from our manager in our Friday memo about maintenance, ongoing maintenance for those dog parks.
Okay. And I just do want to be transparent that I live nearby and I'll be continuing to follow up on this sort of until it's resolved. So I look forward to seeing you guys in the coming weeks more frequently and to resolving this issue together.
And so we'll follow back up with you
Great.
After this Friday's report goes out.
Thank you. Appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Mamakai Sanders.
Good afternoon, y'all. It's another amazing day in paradise. Thank you guys for your service. Appreciate you being here. I'm back with more ideas. First of all, I'd just like to share that I was the only citizen that attended there was Doug too, but I attended all 5 budget listening sessions that were held in the districts, and I also attended one of the virtual ones in December. The only reason I didn't attend the other ones is because of the stormwater meeting and something else that conflicted with the scheduling for them in December. There was approximately 100 citizens that participated in all, and because most of the meetings, bless you, 25 to 35% I would say was staff that were at each of those meetings, and I don't think any of those meetings exceeded 40 participants. And so with that, I have my own ideas, but one of the ideas is in addition to something that was said at one of the meetings. And I also want to thank Christina and Tallulah because they were the only people that ran for office that actually attended one of those sessions of all the candidates and all of city council who was elected. But I have 3 ideas. One is that it would be really helpful if the city could put together a 4 1/4 by 11 city council, welcome to Raleigh card, where city council is on one side, who your elected officials are, and then maybe major department contact numbers on the other side. So those can go to real estate agents and in apartment complexes, because for a city with almost 500,000 people to have less than 100 people showing up for such important, from what I saw, for such an important engagement period, I think is unacceptable. And so I think that would help to just let people know what's going on. The second thing is, can we do a new study to determine an alternative to New Bern BRT? I don't understand why we would put more impervious surfaces and I hope I'm getting these terms right, in a floodplain or watershed area, as well as in an area, in a community that we know is a heat island, and also rip up all those trees that are there, especially when we could just increase service when we don't have enough service operators. So I'm not sure why that's, why we're pushing forward on that. And this last idea has to do with when I attended the District B, they made it, one of the comments was that there's no entertainment venue out there. And this is something that I've been really passionate about, wondering about, is if we can move the expansion of the Raleigh Convention Center and Red Hat Amphitheater to the Triangle Town Center, where there's no entertainment venue, so that there becomes another hub for entertainment. And that's it for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Athena Wallen.
Hi there, everybody. My name is Athena Wallen. I've been acquainting you to the Brookside neighborhood while advocating for larger conversations, like the equitable use of our public roadways and how we can challenge car-centric metrics which determine how and when a corridor is considered for traffic calming improvements that would ultimately result in pedestrian or non-driver safety. And I'm also discussing a lot with you about the necessity for Stormwater Creek rehabilitation to be interwoven with our urban development strategies, because we must help rebuild neighborhood resiliency. We have an unpredictable increase of runoff volumes with our storms. Let's figure out a solution to equitably approach communities and help them. There's much to say about the benefits of preemptively reducing car clutter along a neighborhood corridor such as Brookside, because it runs alongside a topological low point of an existing Stormwater Creek ecosystem. So much to say, but today I really wanted to talk to you about one thing. Happy Squirrel Appreciation Day. These little agents of chaos bring me just unconditional amusement. And one of my favorite Raleigh moments is standing in a downtown apartment courtyard, looking up into the giant limbs of beautifully aged oak trees, watching a family of southern flying squirrels just glide from darkness to darkness, these little beautiful creatures, like wisps of shadows within shadows. It was enchanting. And that was here in downtown Raleigh around apartment complexes, offering a little bit of, honestly, escapism in a downtown and urban environment. We should be highlighting ways to bring this and access this along communities everywhere. It just reminds me how remarkable it is to be surprised by nature. And how our stormwater creeks already provide a beautiful, enriched environment where a lot of this potential already exists, and those ecosystems are hurting right now. If we have, I guess I wanted to say that these ecosystems are also the canary in the coal mines. If we have a thriving wildlife habitat around our stormwater creeks, we have the opportunity to cultivate thriving communities around those natural resources. It's really hard to stand up here and tell you that I take pride in the habitat I have cultivated for wildlife in my backyard, because it's just a desperate mess of like dead things that are tied together with hope and just a shrug. But that's what I have to defend the stream. I wish I could tell you about the stormwater crew coming out and helping me plant things. It was great. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Okay, final speaker, Laura Harris.
Laura Harris, District D. Right now, we all know it's very cold this week. It's in the teens at night. If you're out there for an hour or two, you know, your hands, like your fingers, your toes, they start to sting and hurt, and eventually you just can't feel them anymore, and they're numb and you can't move them. Your face stings, you're shivering, you can't stop, and all you can think about is getting warm. But if you're homeless and if the white flag shelters are full, or if it's not a white flag night, you can't do anything until the morning and something opens up, like a place at the table, and you can go there and get warm. But like there are nights where, it's 36 degrees and the white flags are not open because it's above the cutoff. These conditions, especially getting down to the teens and 20s, these are conditions of death. And, basically the white flags need to be open all winter, and, have more drop-ins. I know there are 2, right now they're functioning as drop-ins, but there need to be more, because right now there's only, those 2 and then a couple white flags, basically. You may say there's not available spaces for another drop-in or what have you, but the city of Raleigh owns a lot of property. There's the convention center, there are, community spaces, there are gymnasiums, there are places where you could set it up for people to be able to go. And I know Raleigh's on the governing board of the Continuum of Care, and you may, say certain things are not directly in your power or what have you, but you all have things that are in your power and you all have influence. You may say there's not staff for these drop-ins, that they rely on volunteers. Well, you can create, in your budget, you can create a staff and you can create a budget for this. There are things that are within your power to do. And you all, like to say when you want to develop a space that is underutilized. Well, a lot of these public spaces that you all have, again, the convention center is an example, are underutilized, and y'all could be using those. Y'all need to step up and do more for the people of your city. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, that concludes the public comment. And I guess the next voicemail, public comment?
There were no voicemail and public comments received.
Okay. All right, next on the agenda is special items, and there was a resolution of support for naming of Interstate 440 interchange at US 1, US 401. Turn it over to staff, or
Yeah, Michael Moore's coming.
report planning?
We skipped the report of the Planning Commission, and staff was going to speak to one of the questions that was lifted up as to why there's no agenda items.
Okay, yep, so I had, that there was no report, but yes, please.
That's right, there is no report. Good afternoon, Bynum Walter, Planning and Development. You'll remember at your last meeting, we had a very robust report of Planning Commission, and that was the items that Planning Commission discussed at their only meeting in December. Like you, they only met once in December, and so there are no items today. They are meeting next week, and we will certainly have items for you at the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, next moving on to special items, the resolution of support for the NCO DOT interchange. Mr. Michael Moore.
Good afternoon. Mayor, members of council, at your last meeting, you requested staff prepare a resolution in support to name the I-440 US 1, US 401 interchange in honor of Mr. Conan Morgan. Mr. Morgan was a native of Raleigh and Wake County. He was a dynamic community leader, and he was a trailblazer in North Carolina politics. He unfortunately passed away in a boating accident in 2023. Your resolution has a number of his accomplishments and achievements, a number of recognitions and awards. Among them, I'd just like to highlight his 30 years of service to the North Carolina Science Olympiad. He was a huge advocate for science education, having graduated from North Carolina State University with a degree in computer science. He also led the campaigns of the first African-American female mayors of Charlotte, Ms. Vi Lyles, the Honorable Vi Miles, and of Durham, the Honorable Elaine M. O'Neill. I almost got that wrong. So he was also a recipient of the Order of the Longleaf Pine, the President's Volunteer Service Award, and the Harry S. Truman Award. Once you act on this resolution today, there are a few extra steps that we have to go through. This is a North Carolina DOT interchange, so we'll work through their process. North Carolina Department of Transportation requires us to do a few things following up. So we'll put together some additional information. Those will be supported to the Chief Engineer's office. They will then go to the Road, Bridge, and Ferry Naming Committee. And then they will pass a resolution, which will then go to the Board of Transportation for action. Once that is complete, they'll notify us, we'll make payment to the department, and NCDOT will install the signs. I would like to conclude, I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Morgan's mother, Pamela, and his sister are in the audience today, and just to like to recognize them. And with that, I'd like to request your consideration of the resolution.
There's no discussion.
Do you want, yeah.
So I move to adopt a resolution and move forward the process with DOT. And Ms. Morgan, please, if you and your daughter would stand up. This is Conan's mom and his sister. So thank you all for being here today. And his wife. And his wife, Raina, is also here,
His
too.
wife.
So.
Can't forget his wife.
I didn't see her back
The
there.
other
so.
Miss Morgan.
That's right,
is here,
that's right.
yes.
And I second the motion.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay, and the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next, we have the report and recommendations of the city manager.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council, and to the Morgan family. Thank you for being here today. The first item on the agenda is a long-awaited report and update on the Raleigh Cares program. Many folks at the table, I see Councilmember Patton excited. Councilmember Harrison is over here plugging away at her computer. She's excited as well for Michelle Millette in the city manager's office to present this item. Bless you.
All right. So sorry about that. Looks like my slides are not loaded, but as you all know, this has been a passion project for me, so I actually can speak from the heart. So I do want to provide you all with an update about the Raleigh Cares program. If the slides are able to get loaded, you will see the wonderful branding that the communication team worked on so hard in order to deliver something that we thought would really speak to Raleigh Cares. And what does Raleigh Cares stand for, Councilmember Mitchell Silver? It stands for Crisis Alternative Response for Empathy and Support. And so this project, again, like I said, means so much to me as well as this community, and it's important to give you guys updates as we are along the process. And one in particular is to talk about acorns. And so I do want to distinguish between the two. I know we get a couple of questions all the time about what is Raleigh Cares, what is acorns, what is the police department, what does that really mean? And so it's important to establish that the community came back to us and said, we recognize that acorns is not going away. And acorns does a lot of good work. And I'm going to show you a video shortly about some of that really good work. But we thought it was important to answer the community's question around the separation of the two. And so the community itself really wanted some solutions and some options that did not involve the Raleigh Police Department. So we thought it was important. In particular, we thought it also was make sure that we were specific in our titling to separate the two. So Raleigh Cares itself is just Raleigh Cares, and that includes three components. Two, I'm going to provide you an update with today, which is the crisis call diversion line, as well as the care navigation program. The third component, which I know you all are waiting for a bated breath, I do have a small update for you, and we'll have more to come as we come back to you all around the budget time. But again, the fourth component is that co-response, which is our Acorns unit. And so if you recall, several months ago, we came to you all and asked you for a authorization for the city manager to enter into a contract with Gelada. And so Gelada is that database software and dashboard, thank you, that dashboarding software that was really important to help build some trust and transparency in the community. And so since then, Acorns went through a little bit of a tough time as I talked to you all right before you went on your break about some hiring challenges. But as of today, and I don't see Madeline in the audience, but I'm gonna give her a lot of credit because she worked her butt off in recruitment. She will be fully staffed by February 1st. And so what that means is we can actually operationalize the system. And so they've been working with Gelada, the software company. Awesome, thank you. They've been working with the software company in order to work through some of the databases and try to work on getting some of that system stood up. They've been partnering with some mental health professionals as well as community members to help understand what does that actually mean and what do they want to hear when they have interface with a Acorns employee, as well as they've been working in particular with some of our veteran community. We know that sometimes they are some of our most vulnerable population, and so I think this is the most appropriate time to give the Raleigh Police Department, specifically the Acorns unit, a shout out here, and I have a short video to show.
City of Raleigh has many resources, and we at the Raleigh Police Department are fortunate enough to have our Acorns unit. Today, hear one man's story about how this unit helped him get back on track.
They worked hard. They got me into a place that's safe, that's warm, and like you said, it's my room.
Nicholas, who prefers to be called Mr. Nick, is now in a place he can finally call home after living on the streets of Raleigh for years. That's all thanks to persistent work and referrals by members of RPD's Acorns unit and a peer support representative from recovery communities of North Carolina.
Once you've been unhoused or you have a significant criminal background, a lot of times getting connected to the right services can be a very challenging issue.
Travis Compton says their primary goal at RCNC is to focus on the recovery of the individual. However, he understands recovery is different for everyone. And in Mr. Nick's case, he is a disabled veteran who lost his right foot years back, shortly after being diagnosed with diabetes.
Mr. Nick came onto my caseload from a kind of referral that Travis made. They had seen Mr. Nick in downtown Raleigh for a couple months and knew that he was unhoused and he was kind of falling into the cracks.
Chase Sachs works as a social worker for the Acorns unit. Acorns is an acronym for Addressing Crisis Through Outreach, Referrals, Networking, and Service. The specialized unit consists of a number of officers and social workers.
We receive referrals from our patrol officers internally and externally from community partners or citizens in the community, basically letting us know of a need that an individual is facing. It could be homelessness, substance use, or mental health.
Sergeant Horner supervises this unit.
Our priority with the Veteran Services Program is to take service members in need and connect them with their VA benefits or with other service providers in the event that they don't qualify for VA benefits.
Their common goal was simply getting Mr. Nick housed and off of the streets.
You could tell when someone cares and someone don't. And you have a stroke and you get emotional, but it's really good.
After months of follow-ups and referrals, Mr. Nick could finally get the keys to his new apartment, and to make the reward even sweeter, it was given to him on a special day.
They said, we're going to get you off the street. They didn't put no time limit on it. They didn't put no restriction. On my birthday, that's when I came.
To have his reaction, you know, the day that he moved in, it was like Christmas morning. We keep talking about it. It was just like Christmas morning for us, but also for him. And to see him unlock his, door for the first time after years of not being able to do that, it's surreal.
Oh, it was such a great feeling. It was like one of those Christmas miracles where not only did we get him housed and in a better place, but it was also on his birthday.
Mr. Nick is now a resident at the Cornerstone Center, which provides wraparound services to all of their residents who are trying to adapt back to society.
You got your own bathroom, you got your own shower, you got a microwave, you got a TV, a refrigerator. Hey, couldn't ask for no more.
However, Sergeant Horner says the fight doesn't end here with Mr. Nick.
We see so many people who have given up and they've just sort of lost hope, and I really want everyone to understand that we're going to help you to meet those needs, and we want to walk with you through this process, and don't give up because we're going to help you fight.
Chase has a message for those looking to receive services from the Acorns unit.
So I just stress so much just to be patient with the process. because it's going to happen. We're going to figure out a way to make it work, and that's the beauty of the social workers and that are on our unit, is that we're always trying to make things fit and make things work so that we can get people to their end goal, that it's worth the wait.
I hope hearing this story has inspired you to seek help if you need it. For more information on our Acorns unit, visit RaleighNC.gov.
Thank you all. I don't see all the members or any actual members from Acorns team. I assume they are doing the work, in particular with it being so cold outside. But thank y'all for that applause. They truly deserve it, as they work really hard and they have definitely taken the mission to heart. If you think about connecting people to resources, that's what we've said this program is going to be from the beginning, and that's what they've done. When they are able to onboard the Gelada software, you'll be able to see not just a video, but you'll be able to see that data, as well as people being connected to different services and where those gaps are directly. So I do want to, again, take another peek. I don't see her here, but do want to thank Madeline and the entire team around Acorns. In particular, now that they are almost fully staffed, I know they're going to continue to work in the community and do that wonderful work. So wanted to provide that update on that program. Care navigation. As part of the budget, you all also authorized us hiring 3 positions under housing and neighborhoods. And as of today, they are in the midst of trying to outline the program. They have hired the manager itself, so we are really excited about that, and that manager will be starting sometime in February. The coordinator and peer support positions are still in recruitment, but we thought about really waiting to onboard them with the manager. In particular, I'm going to have an ask for you towards the end of this presentation, but they want to make sure they have coordinated effort around the training with Acorns. They want to make sure they have trauma-informed care, as well as doing a bunch of community touch points around the spring and the summer, and with the hopes of launching the program in May of 2025. The mobile crisis response pilot, which I know you all are so excited to hear more about. And I'm not going to tell you that I have a true update for you, with the exception of, I really do want to shout out our partners at Wake County. They have come to the table, and we are actually designing a pilot right now, identifying additional partners in order to get that over the edge. And so you will be seeing something at the budget. Can't tell you what it is right now, as we need to outline what the pilot looks like. But I do want to take this time to thank Wake County and our additional partners for coming to the table and helping us design an informed pilot. So our crisis call diversion line, which is one of the things I'm going to ask you for at the end of this meeting and is on your agenda today. We worked really hard again with those additional partners, including Wake County, in order to design a crisis call diversion line that would be launched in Raleigh specifically. And what does that mean? That means that anyone that calls within Raleigh, North Carolina, who is in need of services, they will be able to speak to someone from 9 to 5, 9 a.m. within our call center. Councilmember Harrison, you charged us with what happens outside of 9 to 5. Why choose that number? And so we went back to our partners, including Wake County. Do want to give them a shout out here, as long as working with our partner alliance, and asked, can we get 24/7 care? And they came back to us and said, okay, we can do that with additional costs. We can make that happen, which is part of the ask in a little bit. But what does that mean? So I want to be really clear here. From 9 to 5, they will speak with a licensed clinician that is in-house with us at our 911 call center. Outside of that, they will still speak to an Alliance Health employee, a licensed clinician, but they are not housed within our 911 call center. What that means, it might be a slight delay. We hope it will not, but it might be a slight delay just based off trying to transfer calls and not necessarily being all aware of all the things that you need. So our call takers might have to do a little more just to make sure they get the information to Alliance, but they will get service. And so thank you, Councilmember Harrison, for charging us with that, and we're able to get to that, along with a, again, small ask in just a little bit. And through working with our partners and Alliance, I do want to also take out the time to shout out our city attorney's office, who really made sure that we were reducing our risk, but also making sure we didn't lose the spirit of this program. And so I really do want to thank them so much for their time and effort towards this. as well as the Department of Emergency Communications. We really challenged them to think about mental health when, again, that's not their charge. Their charge is to connect people to resources again. And so what that means of onboarding licensed clinicians and embedding them into our culture, they really have been working diligently on an operational plan in order to make sure this is a success. So again, I want to shout out another department because I don't do this by myself. I recognize I'm the one telling the story, but I'm not the person that does the work. So I do want to shout out the Department of Emergency Communications, in particular the Director, Dominic Nutter, as well as the Assistant Director, Jacob Butler. So where's my ask? I also have an additional ask outside of the contract is that expansion for 24-hour CCD line. And so that means that, again, we're going to fund those positions that will answer those calls within the Raleigh area. And I'm going to get to what happens outside the Raleigh area in just a minute. We also talked about the care navigation, and I told you we wanted to wait to make sure we onboarded that team in order to help that manager. And so they are asking for a program evaluation partner to make sure that we roll out this program that is trauma-informed, works with all the partners in the area, as well as other mental health professionals. I talked about those call takers that are not trained mental health professionals. They are trained to answer calls and connect people to resources. And so it's really important to make sure they get the training they need so when they are taking those calls and getting those prompts, they're actually getting people to the correct resources. I know that was a concern of our former council member Black, who asked about that, as well as Councilmember Jones. And so we took a stab at kind of figuring out what that looks like. And so we've reached out to professionals. And so we are asking for additional training. It also was an ask about what happens when Raleigh Police Department has a call and what that looks like when they're trying to connect people to resources. And so we're also, part of our ask is training for all police department employees who will interface with people that have different types of challenges. Now, this will take time. As we know, whenever you're training someone, that means you're taking them out of what their traditional role is. So I'm not going to put a date on it. I know you all want me to. I cannot. But we are going to ask for additional training in order to help them. We also are going to ask for an enclosed trailer. You saw in the video that the Raleigh Police Department Acorns program goes out and does direct services. And so one of the things that they were asking for is when they have someone who is in need of resources, is there an opportunity for them to kind of have all the things that someone may need? In particular, as you all are seeing all across the community, people are in need of different types of things, and they have worked with partners to identify some of those things, whether it is temporary shelter, different types of food needs, as well as different types of things they may need for personal care. So that is an enclosed trailer that we're asking for the police department. So I did want to point that out, as I know people will ask, hold on, how did the police get another resource? But currently they are the only unit that actually goes out and responds. So we felt that was most appropriate for that ask. We will continue our community outreach as well as our partnership with different types of practitioners. It's been really important for us to keep going back to those people that have asked for this program in the first place. And so we've started those different types of touch points, but we do want to make sure we have kind of a formal meeting where people can come, provide feedback, as well as join the team, get updates on what's going on with the program. And so we'll begin in June 2025 with the hope of a launch with our crisis call diversion line in July 1, as well as the May 2025 for the care navigation. And so we think we'll strike a good balance to get feedback from both of those programs 1 month after launch, as well as 1 month before launch. So that's our goal there. We've also been in contact with the Police Advisory Board. We recognize that that was one touch point that we needed to speak to directly, in particular when they were charged with this effort years ago in order to help with some of that community outreach and connection with the police department. And they have been a really good partner, and we're going to make sure that we have regular check-ins with them. And we also recognize that was a request from Councilmember Lambert Melton last time we were here as well. And then we want to do monthly community mental health pop-ups. We recognize that not everyone is going to dial the number, not everyone is going to call, not everyone is going to feel comfortable with reaching out to Acorns or even just regular City of Raleigh's employee. But if we go directly to them where we know there are hot spots, where we have found out from our partners that there are issues, we feel like we could either educate you on the program itself and different resources we can connect you to, or even just be a touch point and continuously make sure we're there with you. So when we onboard that software of Gelada 100%, then anyone that's inside the program will see, well, okay, I've made a touch point with Michelle. She's in this type of need and this type of resources. Maybe today is the time to start with her. Maybe today is not the time to start with her, but I'll be able to track that touch point and everyone can see it. And we can also be dispatched to those different community partners, those different community pop-ups if that person later wants to come back to us. So I did want to take some time to talk about kind of what people will see out in the community. So here are some of the different types of materials that you'll see. I really want to thank, again, Communications, who worked really hard, who took all the feedback, whether they were frustrated with me or not. They were very creative, and in particular, were very thoughtful, and they also came up with a tagline. And I recognize you cannot see it now with the menu down there, so sorry, but you'll see it on the left-hand corner as well as in the center there, what's kind of off-center. And so we challenged them to think about when somebody is thinking about what the Raleigh Cares program is. And so our new tagline officially is, because every crisis deserves compassion. And so what that embodies for me, and at least for majority of the team, is no matter what you're going through, no matter what you're facing, you will be faced, at least when you interface with the city of Raleigh, compassion. And we don't always know what someone is going through or how they're going to get through it, but if we connect you to resources, we can at least be the first point of contact to get you on that path. So what is my request? I kept hinting at it. So one, you'll see directly pulled out in your agenda item, is to authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Alliance Health in the amount to not to exceed for the crisis call diversion line. We also are asking you all to authorize a budget transfer to cover some program enhancements that I went through on the other slides. I will pause now for questions before I get to next steps.
Ms. Millette, will you clarify, is that an annual ask, the 546,114, or is that?
That's for this pilot.
Just for the pilot?
Yes.
You anticipate that being about it?
I do not anticipate it being that high because a lot of this is startup, training, but once we get the program running, which will be a full year, then I think we'll know more because one, we're only having 3 licensed clinicians. So we may find that we don't necessarily have the calls from 9 to 5. They may come in after and we may not necessarily need 3 licensed clinicians during the day, as well as you don't have the startup costs. It's also any software enhancements, computers, different things like that.
Right, thank you. And I think before the mayor opens for questions, we would be remiss if we did not thank Councilmember Lambert Melton from about 5-6 years ago, challenged us to rethink the way we engage and rethink the way we serve with compassion and empathy to those who we might not want to make the 911 call for RPD. And so he pushed us and he pushed us, and Michelle took the ball, and then council came on in 22, and we've just worked really, really hard. And people have been really frustrated that it's taken a long time, but I would much rather we do it and do it right than rush to bring something forward that we see some of our neighbors have done and it's not worked out too well. And so I feel really strongly and we've been intentional and strategic about how the Raleigh Cares program will function moving forward. So thank you personally, Ms. Millette, for all of your attention and heartache at times in trying to stand this program up.
Since we're thanking before you get started, Mayor, I do also want to thank Hannah, who's worked diligently in the office as well. She takes every crazy idea that I have, the community has, you all have, the manager has, and helps make it happen. So I do also want to take this opportunity to thank her as well.
Okay, thank you for that presentation video. And do you have questions?
Yes.
Councilor Patton.
Hi. Can you go back to a slide that has, that one? Maybe not. The one that talks about 24/7.
Oh, crisis call diversion.
Yes.
Line. Yeah.
Yes. This one. June 2025 program start date is later than we
Yes. So as the manager talked about length of time, so what we are concerned about, and we've just heard this overall, is it is difficult to hire licensed clinicians itself right now, in particular social workers or people that do this work. If you recall in the presentation that I gave back in November, that was one of the challenges that they were facing in the Acorns unit with so many vacancies. And so we just did that buffer to be careful there, but Alliance assures us that for them, it's about a 30 to 60 day onboarding process for them. And then we also wanted to put back in 30 days for them to be embedded into our call center. So shouldn't take that long, but again, as we all know, and I've said from the very beginning, we get those snapshot moments where people are going to quote me. So I'd rather, under promise and over deliver. So we feel like June would be just safer.
So if on the off chance it was, we found some great clinicians, are we able to move faster if things flow?
Yeah, as soon as you authorize this, the city attorney's office has helped me let our partners know that we are not going to sit on this contract, not that we ever do, but we are going to make sure that this contract gets moved pretty fast. As well as on the Alliance side, they've seen it at least a dozen times themselves, so it shouldn't take long for them to sign as well, and then they are authorized to do the recruitment. And I made a mistake. I did not come back to you all to talk about what happens after for a caller outside of Raleigh. So Alliance as well as Wake County has said that they will take care of those calls. Dominic, and I want to thank Dominic again. We worked really hard with them, but they are able to make sure people are serviced in the community outside of Raleigh too. Recognizing that we can only pay for our citizens, it's not fair to pay for the county, but the county and the Alliance have stepped up to say that they will make sure people outside of Raleigh have those resources.
Are there other questions? Yep. Councilor Harris.
I just want to thank you, Michelle, for, again, going above and beyond. Getting this service, 24/7 is huge, and ensuring that it meets the needs of all of Wake County residents. It just means a lot. So, again, thank you for everything that you're doing. I'm prepared to make a motion when folks are ready.
If you don't mind, I would love to be able to.
Please go ahead.
For you to
Yeah.
second. I just wanted to add, thank you very much for all the work you're doing. It's been a long time coming. I also wanted to note, I thought that video for Acorns was fantastic. During this process, I have constantly felt like there have been some tensions about it's Acorns or. I think Acorns and is the right approach. And there's been some confusions about what Acorns does and does not do. And I think that video really helped put a real life story to their work. And if you are not someone in the community who has had a need to interact with Acorns, you are very fortunate. Because it is designed to be reaching out to folks who need the most assistance. And so the more we can do to daylight their work while we're also getting the CARES program up and running, I think we will now have a multitude of services to provide compassion to the community. So with that, I would like to move to authorize the city manager to execute the contract and to authorize the budget transfer as stated in the agenda.
Second.
Don't take that down, Luke. I have one thing just to say to council for next steps. I wanted to make sure we got that authorized. Mayor, I didn't mean to cut you off. Were you going to say something?
No, also just this was such an important issue throughout the whole campaign. I think last council and everybody running, I think, understands the need for this. So also appreciate the work. And just to be clear, so if somebody calls 911 now, we don't even have the 9 to 5 set up, right? So that will be in the future, and that will launch the same time as the 24/7, and it will all go through 911.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Currently, you actually can call Alliance and get services right now. What happens is it may take some time just because they don't have direct personnel that are directed for our calls, but there is already a service. Currently, they're already contracted by the state for these types of services. What we're doing is giving you a direct connection, in particular for Raleigh residents, having people inside our call center. So we'll cut back on the delay. But currently, every single person has access to Alliance Health in the state.
Yeah, that's fabulous. Okay, so we've had a motion and a second. Any further discussion or comment? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay, and the motion passes. Thank
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I do just want to make for the public, thank you, Mayor, for actually being very clear on that implementation. We will continue to work on those pilots themselves, and we're calling them pilots because we do want to spell out that where there's room for improvement, and we will come back to give council an update on those things, as well as the Acorns dashboard and client software. Thank you, Councilmember Lambert Melton, again, for that shout out and that clarity on the Raleigh Police Department Acorns program, because what they do is very critical. But one thing to really note is that the police department themselves like this program. They like that resources are they aren't pulled away from things that they are supposed to do. So I think it's really helpful for people to really see their work, and thank you for highlighting that video. They did a wonderful job on that work, but it's also important to know that once they get the dashboard up and running, I think people will see their work more often, and they'll be able to understand kind of the things that they're able to push out. I do want to also remind you all that we'll continue to design that mobile crisis pilot with Wake County, and we will come back to you all with an ask, I'm sure, as well as an update on all the programs. But I do want to take a time also to thank the full body of this council for that action that you just took. It means a lot to not just me, but the community that we're going to serve, but all of the staff that took all of their time, because I know I've drove them crazy as well to get this over the edge. So thank you guys so much.
Okay.
Awesome. And so the next item on my report today, Ms. Millett, if you can stay at the podium. 2 weeks ago, we promised a sneak peek of what this weekend's City Council Planning Retreat would provide. And Michelle Millett is here today to kind of walk us through fast and dirty the agenda for Friday and Saturday.
Yes, and I apologize. I brought the wrong paper up here, but I know this by heart as well, so we'll be good to go. So the Council Retreat Committee, I do want to thank you all, because you actually worked really hard, fast and dirty, as the manager said, to really push past a really quick deadline. And so we're going to start off on Friday. I think the manager mentioned to you all that we would announce the location. It has been announced. We'll be at Method Road Community Center starting promptly at 9 a.m. I'm going to say this again, promptly at 9 a.m., not just for the public, but for staff as well. Make sure we're all in place. We are going to start with a icebreaker for you all that will be gently rolling you into your priorities and helping you communicate to not just the community and staff, but as well as you all. What are some of the things that are important that you all would like to accomplish over this year? Then we'll jump into an exercise by our strategic plan group, which they prompted you all, and I think you had some homework, and thank you for completing that homework. And they're going to go over the strategic plan, and then we'll jump into the public comment. You all had asked the city attorney's office to come back and kind of discuss with you the public comment options that were provided to you at the last retreat, as well as to see if there's a snapshot of any community members surrounding you all that have doing anything differently since you made your changes, and to do one last gut check to see if there are any changes that you all would like to make. We will then go into a lunch. I will allow you all to eat. You'll come back. We'll start right back into topics where we will have a panel discussion about your legislative priorities. It has been a topic, I think, every single agenda, at least that I've been here. And so you all are going to have, I think, a really good panel. This year, you'll be joined by a representative from the League of Municipalities, as well as your state lobbyists. And you'll also be joined by a representative from Wake County to talk about what are the things that they did in order to draft their legislative agenda, and if anything has shifted since they've put out that agenda. So then we'll jump into, after that, we will go to, I just drew a blank. I apologize. Then we will go into
Legislative agenda.
Just did legislative agenda.
Budget.
So then you'll go into a budget exercise. See, I do make mistakes. Then we'll go into a wonderful budget exercise where you'll go get your financial outlook for the first time. And then you will have some discussions to lay out your priorities to the Budget and Finance Office about some things that are important to you all. And then we'll end the day there.
No,
I did public
got moved
comment.
up. It moved up. She
Yep.
did it.
Then we will jump into the next day, and then you all will kick off, starting off with a really strong, robust conversation around community engagement, in particular calling out your boards and commissions. So we're asked by the committee to look at what are the boards and commissions that we currently have. Are they right size for the organization, of the community that you have? Do they still meet the community priorities, as well as maybe some demographic background information that the clerk's office works so closely with community engagement and the liaisons to present to you all. And so you'll have a robust conversation there. You'll also go into a conversation around annexations, in particular, what does it mean as we start to grow? So you have a presentation from the city attorney's office as well as our planning department. Then we'll jump into a conversation around affordable housing. And I think specifically this conversation is around what are we doing in the way of what our zoning laws kind of limit us to, and what are some of the housing goals, objectives that you all have set before you. Then we'll take a break. We'll come back. The manager will give her traditional operational updates, and we will walk you all through what we have accomplished over the last year, which staff should be really impressed with themselves, as they've done a wonderful job since our last retreat. The retreat facilitator will also kind of take a snapshot to see if we've captured all the things that you all have asked us to cover, make sure that the 2 days have been fruitful for you in the community, and then we'll wrap up the day. Did I leave off an agenda item?
I think that's it. We do leave a little time. We don't assign allotments of time for each item so that the conversations can be fluid and that they can be flexible, and that we're not, if we're in a robust conversation, we don't cut you off in the middle of that conversation. And if the conversation isn't as fruitful, we don't make you stretch it and waste time either. So the facilitator will work with the mayor as she will work with us to make sure that we're staying on target so that we do finish everything that we have for the day. Michelle didn't mention we will do light refreshments at 8:30. So if you want the coffee and the juice, you need to be there at 8:30. At 9 o'clock, we're starting work, right? We're going to work at 9. So excited, lots of great ideas. Staff always gets excited about the planner retreat because that kind of gives us our marching orders for the year. And we have new members at the table this year, so it allows us an opportunity to kind of hear from you as well. And so lots of work goes into planning this, lots of work goes into following through on this, so excited.
All right, questions for Ms. Millette on the retreat? All right, well, we appreciate all the work that has gone into it, and again, that it will get us off to a good start for 2025 and this council and administration.
Absolutely. And next, I have the wonderful opportunity to present to some and introduce to others the newest member. I want to quit saying this, but the newest member of the City of Raleigh family, Mr. Nicky Jones. As you all know, we had a ACM position, Assistant City Manager position, that was vacated as Deputy Manager Hayward moved on to Colorado. We went through a national search, and out of that search, we found the candidate that we felt like best fit the portfolio that we were looking to reimagine through the reorg in the manager's office, and that brings to us Nicky Jones. Nicky Jones was here with the city where he worked in economic development, but had more of a visibility and presence in housing and neighborhoods where he served as assistant director. He left us to become the planning director of another municipality in Wake County, and then he left Wake County to go serve in Athens, Georgia. And in that consolidated form of government, I think Nicky has held every role that there is to hold. I think he has been the assistant city manager of about 25 departments, some at the same time. And he served as the interim city manager most recently. So we're excited. He has a wealth and, of knowledge and experience in the field and in this work, but also in this community. We're welcoming him back home to North Carolina, as he has a young daughter who's about 5 or 6, and so he's excited to get her closer to grandparents. So introduce to some, present to others, Mr. Nicky Jones.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll be brief. I just want to say it's an honor and a privilege to be back home. I look forward to working with friends, colleagues, a great staff here. Look forward to working with the council on all the great initiatives that we have right before us. And just want to say thank you, and I'm very appreciative to the manager for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you.
Welcome
Nikki.
back.
And so Miss Octavia, he said this morning, I get to work with Miss Octavia Rainey again. So be nice, be gentle. Be gentle, Miss Rainey. Okay, that's the commitment. We have it on camera. And the last thing, I don't get to brag most times at the table, but one of the things that as a manager, you get the opportunity to do is to see your people shine and to see the organization and the community evolve over time. And so we always challenge ourselves to do bigger and to do better on an annual basis, and in our office on a daily basis. And so I am really, really proud to announce that the esteemed Milken Institute announced just last week that the city of Raleigh is the best performing city in the nation. And I would argue that is not by surprise, that is not by accident. We were number 2 last year. And we said we don't settle for being number 2. We're going to aim for number 1, and doggone it, we achieved it. So to my staff, thank you all for being in the trenches with me when I come up with all these harebrained ideas that you look at me and like, we're not going to be able to do that. And we encourage and push each other to believe that we can. For the community who backs us and supports us when we get it right and who holds us accountable when we don't, thank you for that, because that makes us a better organization. To our council, mayor and council, thank you all for allowing us the space to carry out the work that is so meaningful, that is oftentimes goes under a radar. It's not thanked. It's, it's that work that you just kind of do that is part of the calling that is each of us for public servants. But just a hats off to my staff. We are the best performing city in the nation for 2025, and that is a major achievement. So I will close with that for my report today.
Thing I would add, which is an incredible recognition, and they're actually, we were the largest city, and there was the smallest was Ogden was the best performing small city, but the fact that it measures not just economic prosperity, but also opportunity, takes into account things like affordability, and I know as much as we struggle here relative to other cities, I mean, the efforts that the past councils have made, staff, it is impressive, and I was just at the National Conference of Mayors, and it's just amazing the respect that Raleigh gets, and how many people look to Raleigh as a leader. So that was a great honor to get that. So
thank you.
Thank you.
So I will close on that high note today. And another short meeting, so we get 2 accolades today.
Awesome. We've got some matters scheduled for public hearing, and these were a number of public nuisance abatement issues, and I will turn it over to Bryce Abernathy.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Bryce Abernathy, I'm the Code Enforcement Administrator with the Housing and Neighborhoods Department. Quick refresher, Code Enforcement, we enforce the Health, Sanitation, Public Nuisance Code, City of Raleigh. What that typically looks like is folks that don't take care of their yards, high grass, trash in the yard, those kind of things. We'll send an inspector out. They'll cite the owner of the property per Wake County tax records. What that looks like is they send them a first-class letter laid out with the violations. They post this information on the house. We go through, before we send a crew out there to actually clean the property up, we usually try to find emails and phone numbers and make follow-up phone calls. Typically, when you get to this point, there's been a lot of non-action from the property owner, and that's kind of where that falls under. I know there were some questions about when we encounter homelessness or unhoused individuals out on lots. We typically don't do any enforcement action until Acorns has been brought into the situation and they go out and provide resources to those that are on site before we do anything as far as cleaning it up. So with that being said, if you guys don't have any questions, I can kind of move forward with these properties. I know 809 Campanella was paid off of this list, so should be admitted. First property is 605 Bragg Street. You may recall that this one has quite a history on it. This is just another abatement that we've completed on this property. Again, no contact with the ownership. And this was just high grass and trash.
How much is their total lien amount at this time?
It looks like we're a little over 11,000 at this point for this property. 1338 Crosslink. This was just kind of junk all over the place. There's a couple rental properties in it. We did talk to the property owner with this one and let him know what was going on, and they did not do anything about it. Again, it was trash, car parts, household items, you kind of name it, that's what was out there. And the last one is 619 Cumberland Street, and this is another one that we've visited many times. We've actually had enforcement action on this property dating back to 2011. We actually demolished the house in 2015. Again, this was just extremely high grass on the property, no contact with any ownership after mailing out first-class mail and trying to call them and everything. The total for that property since 2011 is about $40,000.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on these items? And I will open public hearings. We do not have anyone signed up to speak, but for the record, so I'm opening the hearing on 605 Bragg Street for public nuisance abatement. I am closing the hearing, seeing no one, right? Okay. Closing the hearing on 605 Bragg. Should I take all of, I need to vote separately, right? Okay, all right. So I'll open the hearing on 1338 Crosslink Road. Anybody to speak? Seeing no one. Closing the hearing on 1338 Crosslink Road. And then opening the hearing on 619 Cumberland Street. There's no one here. Closing the hearing on 619 Cumberland Street. Do I have a motion to?
Move for approval.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? If not, yes.
Hello again. Thank you so much. I just wanted, I know that when they've come up before in previous councils, we've asked about mutual aid organizations, and I just wanted to highlight, you guys do work with mutual aid if they're willing and able to. Have you found any more connections that with those mutual aid organizations where they would want to help out in this instance?
So with the housing element, we do refer property owners to the homeowner repair programs. We also do, we're starting in the spring, we have similar, Greensboro has a program, it's a tool share program. And we have purchased some mowers and some weed eaters and things like that that property owners will be able to rent for free if they need that kind of, if they wanted to take care of it themselves and just didn't have the equipment, they could rent those for free.
Need a machete.
Yeah, and some of that's we've partnered with Neighborhood Enrichment on doing that. So
awesome. Thank you so much for looking into that and going deep on that. So I appreciate it.
Question.
Yep, another question.
For the properties where we have these thousands of dollars of liens, do we know if the taxes are being covered?
I don't think taxes have been paid on either one of those properties. The city attorney's office is actually putting together kind of a larger detailed memo about how to handle some of these properties that have exorbitant costs associated with maintaining them.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to have a follow-up question. I was going to ask about that, and because certainly, like, I don't want us to put liens on people's homes if they wish they could do the work but couldn't for lack of tools. But for some of these, we are just like essentially acting as landscapers paid for with public funds,
Yes.
and that does
And I'll say that these two properties are kind of outliers. It's usually not the case that we're maintaining a property for just
endlessly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you know, or Madam City Attorney, do you know about when we might expect that report coming out of your office? Just a loose ballpark, a month, 6 months?
Yes, Councilmember Patton, this had started off as a response to some more specific site-specific questions, and I had talked with the Housing and Neighborhoods Director and with the City Attorney about making that more comprehensive and making it a joint memo from our office and from Housing and Neighborhoods, so we can provide sort of the legal framework that the city has to work within, but also to let Housing and Neighborhood staff speak to how they administer the program within the laws.
So roughly when, like a month or 6 months?
Within the next month.
Okay, so we've had a motion and a second. Are we ready to vote on this? Right? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. And we appreciate the report and all the thoughtful comment from everybody on council. Okay, so we had Z1724 was withdrawn. So we are now, we have the report and recommendation of various committees, but because we are coming off the holidays, we do not have any report and recommendations, which leads us to the mayor and city council reports. And I will start with Councilor Harrison.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to note one item in the consent agenda. I did notice that a pollinator garden was approved in a right-of-way, which I thought was fabulous. And I was curious to get an update, Marshall, about how residents, if they have an interest in that, is there a web page that they can go to find out more information? I've had other requests where neighbors want to take care of a right-of-way and do additional landscaping, and it seems like a good opportunity to add some TLC to our public spaces.
Absolutely. We gave a snapshot of an answer right here, but we can. I'm sorry, we gave a snapshot of an answer right before the meeting, but we'll make sure that we have a comprehensive response on Friday.
Great, thank you.
Report. Yes.
I also did want to thank Planning Director Pat Young and then Hannah Reckow with the Planning Department for coming out to our District D meeting on Saturday. We had almost 40 residents there, super engaged. They love hearing every detail going on with planning. So it was a wonderful conversation, and I just want to thank you for taking your Saturday to be with us.
Thank you, staff, for all the work that you're doing. I did receive an update about the DMV site. I know more information is coming in. I just want to thank the community group that's working on pulling all of the information together on that. A couple things asked. One is related to just the website. I know last year we pushed for updates, just status on that and the manager's update, but also we passed some parks and transit bonds some years ago. I went on the website. Personally, I tried to find the information. It's there, but you have to know the exact project. So if we could just find a way to get a simple page that states where all the projects are on each for each bond, what's completed, what's in design, what's in construction, wherever it is in the stage for the bond, so that as we're having conversations about future projects and work, we know where we've been and where we are. And lastly, question came up today about how, and as far as addressing our unhoused and our convention center, if we could just get a report on the utilization of our convention center. I know it happens like once a year, but it's usually not until like August or so when we receive the information. But if we can just receive something, maybe the manager's update of where the convention center is, how often it's being used. I know this past weekend, they had a big volleyball tournament downtown over the last 3 days. So if we can just share that information on utilization of all of our centers. At some point, I'm going to ask about our community centers. That's just early, Stephen. It's just early notification, but I don't need that one quite yet.
Thank you. Just a few things. My next community meeting will be held back at La Cucina Italian Restaurant on February 12th from 6 to 8 p.m. I stated last meeting that my new book club would start in January, but our council retreat happened to be scheduled on the same day. So our first meeting will now be on February 22nd from 9:30 to 11:30. You can sign up for both my monthly newsletter at ChristinaFerrari.com to learn about upcoming meetings and or to sign up for the book club. Just an update on the 5-point streetscape study. There will be an in-person meeting in March hosted by the city to finalize the study community engagement strategy. I appreciate staff for meeting with local groups like CACs to gain feedback that will strengthen the work being done on the ground. I encourage everyone to stay tuned in for when a date is announced so we can put your wants and wishes down on paper for future action. For accountability purposes, I do have to highlight that the request that any public meeting the city is holding, especially when it's publicized as the final touch point, needs to be hosted by this city, whether that is in person or virtual. The back and forth that Five Points residents experienced in learning of this most recent meeting was very confusing and could have ultimately led to people not participating and being frustrated. So I appreciate everyone's work on that. And then lastly, I want to give a big shout out to Governor Moorhead School for your interest in participating in public comments and making your voice heard. The weather has prevented them from speaking at today's public comment section, but they assure me that they will be back next month. One item I will highlight from my conversation with high school students at this school is that the crosswalk voice that tells a person when to cross is not very loud. Can transportation look into that around the city and report back if it's possible to possibly increase the volume? And I'll send that to you, City Manager, if that's possible to get an update on that. Okay. And that's all. Thank you.
Great. During the whole election season, we all heard a lot about people wanting us to use city-owned land for housing development in an effort to create more affordable housing. And I know the city has already taken a number of steps on existing sites. So would appreciate just a report on what the city has already done on city-owned land, upcoming projects, and then did appreciate some of the information that y'all have already provided here around other larger assemblages that could be potentially used in the future for housing. I know One Wake in particular has been interested in this topic, and they are hoping to come to one of the either public comment or some of the sessions maybe in February. So this will be particularly timeful, so appreciate that information. And then the second one, I see Ms. Rainey there, fair housing. Getting an update. I already talked to Assistant City Manager Raleigh and Emma Sutton this morning, but just giving the entire council a sort of refresh on, the state of fair housing, like how many complaints are we getting? How are those complaints being adjudicated? What is the role of a city council? What's the role of the city? The state obviously has a strong role. So they have already shared a lot of information, but they will be preparing more for all of us on an update on fair housing.
I have 2 items, and I'm sure being a new council member, I'm getting emails you've all received. And after what I'm about to share, I want to be very thankful to staff already. I received quite a number of emails and concerns about panhandling after seeing the presentations on both CARES and ACORN, recognizing this is a very complex problem, but I want to be responsive to constituents. Staff has already provided me with a memo explaining what the city can and cannot do, which will allow me to respond to those constituents. And I'm also getting a briefing. So those that reached out expressing concern about panhandling, particularly in my district on Capitol Boulevard, they've also noted other locations, just so I can get briefed so we can share with the public what the city can and cannot do, because I know for some this is a concern. But on the flip side, we have people experiencing severe poverty, so I'm very gratified by both the ACORNs and the CARES program. In terms of other news, I'll be attending the Midtown CAC on Monday. I believe Councilor Jones will be there as well. So I'll be my first community advisory meeting just to meet the residents and share at least some thoughts they'd like me to address. So with that, that's it. And again, I want to thank staff for already being very swift at providing me kind of a breakdown of what the city can and cannot do as it relates to panhandling, as well as the additional briefing so I can get all the answers I need so I can respond for those that express concern.
Awesome. I want to announce that my next community office hours are February 8th from 10 a.m. to 12, location TBD, and big thanks to everyone who attended last week. Also wanted to announce that the Forestville Road Park, we've secured funding for the master plan and the community action group, community advisory group. Applications are open. The deadline to apply is Friday, February 21st. So I hope that everyone who lives out in the Forestville, Buffalo Road area will consider applying to that so they can help shape the future of that park. And then I did receive a request from a constituent some months back. Several public commenters asked us about consideration for an alt Raleigh flag, and I believe the mayor at the time asked for a manager's update on what the process would look like. If that's been circulated, I missed it, so I'm just hoping it can be recirculated in the next manager's update. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks. I have two things. I just wanted to follow up from the public comment about the 2 temporary dog parks. I just want to go ahead and make that a formal request if we could find out what would be the funding required to upgrade the fencing. I know we had a discussion when we were talking about some additional funds for downtown about the dog park at Moore Square. Mayor Baldwin was actually, I think, really advocating for upfitting that space, but we had limited funds, and I'm not sure if it made it in or not. Maybe it did, but I would just like to make that a formal request from the table to just bring that options to us. I do think they serve a need for the public and for the dogs. And I would also hate for something to happen with that road being right there. And then the second thing, this was just mentioned, One Wake, which reminded me of it. One Wake met with all of us when we were running for office and asked us if we would be willing to attend a tour of the Nehemiah housing development in New York. They've reached out again and said they are scheduling that tour for February 20th. I know that Mayor Cowell is planning to attend. I have confirmed my attendance. And I just wanted to put that on staff's radar and make a request that perhaps staff can coordinate with them. I know if more than 4 of us are planning to go, we have to figure that out. I'm also not sure what is already allocated in our current council budget for travel of that sort and what may need to be requested or not requested. So I just would like to have someone from the manager's office reach out to them and coordinate those details for us. And that's all I have.
I had an opportunity to go to the KYOW event at Broughton High School that Councilmember Jones and I think we split some funds on that, and it was actually a great event. And I actually had the opportunity to talk to the teacher who was coordinating all of that, and she gave us a shout out for being so receptive to the students, and it was a great learning opportunity for them. So I just wanted to lift that up and also thank everybody who participated in the Martin Luther King Jr. events over the weekend. I think there was a lot going on across the city, but I think folks were able to get out and participate in a number of events. So thank you. And also thank you for the folks who supported the resolution on behalf of Conan Morgan. Thank you.
Okay. So that concludes items from Mayor, City Council. Next, we have appointments.
Good afternoon. First is Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, 1 regular vacancy. Michael Dunn received 7 votes, Sean Fernandez 1, so Mr. Dunn would be appointed. Next is Environmental Advisory Board, 1 regular vacancy. Robert Bennett received 8 votes, so would be appointed. Next is Fair Housing Hearing Board, 1 regular vacancy for that tenant slot. Daniel Lamar Grant King received 6 votes, Kelsey Richard 1, so Mr. Grant King would be appointed. Next is Hispanic and Immigrant Affairs Board, 1 alternate vacancy, professional member category. Anna Rios received 7 votes, so would be appointed. And lastly, under appointments, we have Human Relations Commission, 1 alternate vacancy. Councilmember Silver has nominated Dr. Mary Ellen Kelly, and Councilmember Patton nominated Jakarma Allen, so both names will be appearing on your next ballot. And then next, under nominations, these are new announcements. Arts Commission, 1 regular vacancy. The term of Tony Gadsden is expiring, and she would like to be considered for reappointment.
Move for approval to reappoint.
Second. Right. Any other discussion on Ms. Gaston? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Historic Cemeteries Advisory Board, 1 regular vacancy. The term of Allison Kugel is expiring, and she does not wish to be considered for reappointment. Per city code, she will continue to serve until replaced. This is one of the boards that has a formal nominating committee, but has not yet submitted a replacement. Once that is received, we'll get that shared with the council, but wanted to go ahead and get it on your radars. Next is Human Relations Commission, 2 regular vacancies. Resignation has been received from regular member Peyton Glendening. Past practice has been to elevate the longest serving alternate, which in this case is Alicia Taylor, who was just appointed during the last meeting. So obviously no attendance to report. So you do have the option to elevate her.
She's my nominee, so I'll make the motion that we elevate her.
Second.
Okay. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes.
So that will now create another alternate vacancy on the Human Relations Commission that will be coming back. And then additionally, as you may recall, term expiration was announced during the last meeting for regular member Gabriela Magallanes. Staff was directed to make additional attempts to contact her to determine reappointment desire. We've done that and have not been able to get information back. So it is up to you all as to how you'd like to proceed.
Mayor Pro Tem Fort and I were the 2 who co-nominated her. I am fine with just creating an alternate vacancy on the on there at this time, since we've not been able to confirm whether she wants to be reappointed.
Quick question. Wouldn't that should be we just moved up our 1 alternate. So we had 2 alternates open. So it's actually a regular position that's going to be open.
Great. Yeah. So I thank you. I meant I'm fine with opening it up for nominations since we've been unable to confirm.
One option too, just to make it simpler, is the alternate vacancy that is already on the ballot. You know, instead of appointing someone to an alternate position and immediately elevating, we can just change that. Those nominations that were made today to a regular slot, and then we'll additionally have the alternate vacancies.
That sounds good. So moved, in case you need a motion.
And not to muddy the waters, but I have an additional nomination of Helen Sporkin, and so I offer her name for whatever type of opening there is, and to be on the next ballot.
Can you spell that name for me?
Helen, H-E-L-E-N, and then Sporkin, S-P-O-R-K-I-N.
All right. We will bring those items back. Next is Parks, Recreation, and Greenway Advisory Board, 2 regular vacancies. The terms of 2 members are expiring. 2 regular members, Hugh Fuller and Shang Wen Liu, both would like to be considered for reappointment per council's directive to include an attendance explanation for members that have missed 25% or more meetings. Information was included in your agenda for both of those individuals for your consideration. I will also note here that in addition to these 2 new announcements, this board still has an outstanding vacancy for a member whose term expired at the end of last summer, and the member has continued to serve until replaced, and the board's nominating committee is still deliberating on a replacement. Once we hear back from them, we will share the information with the council.
Move to reappoint the 2 members.
Second. Okay, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. That motion passes.
And lastly, Raleigh Transit Authority, 1 regular vacancy. A resignation has been received from regular member Terrence Ruth. Past practice has been to elevate the longest serving alternate, which in this case is Byron Leak. Again, per council's directive, we included an explanation of attendance for Mr. Leak in the agenda materials.
Move to elevate Byron Leak.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes.
All right, so we will bring back that alternate RTA vacancy on your next ballot. And that's it.
I'd like to nominate Colin Beamer for that RTA vacancy. That'll be on the next ballot.
Can you spell that last name for me?
Beamer, B-E-A-M-E-R.
Beamer, okay. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next, we have the report and recommendation of the city attorney.
No report.
Okay. And the report and recommendation of the city clerk.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. 2 items from the city clerk today. First item is certain external agencies. The council designate to those agencies ought to be an action of the council. So we had the list that was distributed and asking for formal council action to appoint those. This is where you're either an official delegate of this body and or serving as a member of the board of directors of that organization. And then I would point out The Campo organization, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, strongly would like to have an alternate member of council designated in case the primary member can't be there.
Yep, understood. That's good to know. So should we go ahead and vote on the existing list? And then I guess on the Campo, I've heard from Councilor Lambert Melton that he is interested. I don't, if there's multiple people interested, we can not vote on it today and.
We can bring that back.
Yeah, bring it back. But if he's the only one interested, we can go ahead and.
And similar situation, although not required, the Central Pines Regional Council, formerly Triangle J, also prefers that there would be an alternate member designated, but it's not mandated.
Yep. Okay, well, why don't we go ahead and just vote on the main things today? That gives people time if they didn't see this ahead of time, and then we can vote on the alternates next meeting. Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Right. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay, and that passes.
Okay, and second item, we have various sets of minutes from your first council meeting in January and last week.
Move for approval.
Oh, I have one edit. On page 29 of the regular session minutes, CAG can mean a lot of things in our acronym environment, but so it's listed as Capital Area Greenway, but I think in the context of that conversation, it was Community Advisory Group. So with that move, I second the motion with the amendment.
All right. Any other eagle-eyed comments on the minutes? Okay. If not, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Councilmember Silver, there are so many acronyms, even the city clerk's office can get confused at
Get
times.
I
'em
let
wrong.
Michelle go. I saw a couple there, although the video explained acorns. So Michelle, you got to pass on that one.
And so, Mayor, if I may, just briefly, as we are expecting some inclement weather this evening into tomorrow morning, staff is prepared. We have started the brine process to get our streets passable and drivable, because, we're not really fully prepared for snow in these parts. But we're hopeful that we get the anticipated amount of an inch, maybe. So when we wake up in the morning, it might be really pretty outside if we get a little over an inch. But I just wanted you all to know that we will keep you all abreast of any service delivery changes. I will communicate with you all tonight, but we're watching it, and transportation staff is already in the process. And I'm going to have a meeting set up for Councilmember Silver to understand that brine process a little bit more in detail. To show him the benefits of it, but really, no, in all seriousness, we are we are prepared, and so bring it on. We don't want a blizzard. We want enough to be pretty.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. And so we can go over to Dix Park and go sledding.
Right. Okay. So with that, we need a motion to go into closed session, which I will read. Motion is in order to enter closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A3 to consult with the city attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege and to consider and give instructions regarding the handling and/or settlement of a potential claim in the following matters: Wardson Construction and HomeQuest Builders versus the City of Raleigh. Okay. All in favor of the motion to go into closed session? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. So we will leave and come back. Do I need anybody here? Get the clerk in here.
Okay, he's getting it.
It's interesting to see the interior spring. So we met in closed session, no actions were taken, and there is nothing to report out, and we stand adjourned.